It's also the tactic that worked just immediately and early on and consistently. If I could go back in time, I would have told myself, keep sending newsletters, do it more often. This video today is all about how to create a newsletter in 10 easy steps that is designed to bring you leads and sales. It's designed to grow your business. Let's get into it. So when I first started in business, especially in those early years when we started as an agency, I used to dream of the day when the company would be able to bring in sales and leads and just drum up interest and impressions, if you want to call it that, without my constant inputs to it. Because I hated waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. to go to all these networking events. I used to think, man, if only my company could drive leads and sales while I could actually work from my home office, while sitting at a computer. I worked on it. This is how I eventually, really got into sales funnels and learned about it. I was really just solving my own problem. By solving it, we got to where we are today, where AutoGrow is a 7-figure plus business, multi-7 figures. A big part of it, though, was newsletters. So the first step is you want to determine how often you're going to be sending your newsletters. This is based on what is your end goal. So is your goal to drive more traffic? Do you have the time and capacity to do that? Are you going to be too busy servicing clients if you're a service-based business? If you're a product-based business, is it potentially going to exceed demand? These are what you would call good problems to have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should or shouldn't be publishing more or less often. With AutoGrow currently, we are ramping up our newsletter sending and content creation more specifically. And it's something that, we're thinking about calibrating on right now. Because for years and years, we've only sent 1, maybe 2 newsletters per week, where we'll send a content-focused newsletter on Tuesdays, and that has consistently been Tuesday mornings, the best time for us in our market and our niche to get the highest possible open rate, click rate, and so on. And then there's also the rest of the week potentially where it can be seen and clicked on. But now that we are ramping up to do content 5 times per week, and by the way, if you're interested in hearing how it actually goes, we've done this partially in the past, but it's a lot of work, but we're determined to get there this time. If you want to see how it's going to actually go for us, I encourage you to subscribe. You can subscribe to our newsletter on autogrow.co if you're interested, and we'll be sharing more of the journey as well as, the mistakes and lessons learned so you can make better decisions. So that's what you want to think about is, will you exhaust your audience if you're sending too often? So right now, I think our plan is we're probably going to be doing consistently to our entire audience once or twice a week. And then the other days, we're going to be doing more of a niche targeted newsletter with more targeted content. Because one of the key questions that we ask all of our subscribers when they sign up is, how do you best describe yourself as e-commerce, coach, agency, a SaaS business, professional services, and so on. And so that way we're able to create more tailored content to better address the problems of the different segments of our audience. One of the factors and what you want to consider is will your content, depending on if you're already niche, it could continue to be very, very relevant, in which case, keep sending newsletters. And the other thing too to consider is maybe don't worry so much about exhausting your newsletter. People can just unsubscribe. It's not personal. It's not a failure necessarily, because if you are putting out value that is valuable to your target audience, and or if you're making relevant offers alongside of it, or just if that's the focus of certain newsletters without content, you may not want to be paying for those subscribers to be on your email list, and that's okay. So that's step 1, is choose how often you're going to be sending it based on your goals, based on your brand, based on the type of content that you're going to be putting out. The second step is pretty straightforward. You can make mistakes in this step. I've actually seen it happen. Sometimes you have to live and learn, but basically just choose one of the big email tools. They're all pretty similar. If you're on a tight budget, just go with MailChimp. They are a pretty reliable sender. I mean, they sold for $6 billion a little while ago. They were bootstrapped themselves. They pioneered this freemium model that helps them to grow and grow and grow. We're going to be writing a growth story about that in the future if you're interested. MailChimp is fine. You could also go with, we use ActiveCampaign. We're kind of locked into it right now. Personally, I don't recommend it. It's a really good value for the price, but on occasion, I've just seen bugs with active campaign, and it's been ongoing for years, and it's just not a priority right now for us to switch off them. So I would just go with MailChimp. There's a ton of other options out there too. Be careful not getting locked in too early on, because this is probably going to be the same tool that you'll use for email automation later on. And if you're interested, we go over a few more options in the article for this step number 2, which is linked below. Step number 3 is pick your email design template. You want to spend less time here than you think. I think that, for the longest time, our email template for sending a newsletter was just a newsletter that looked like, your friend would have sent you an email. It was just text. The marketing doesn't actually happen until you push send. So some of these decisions, you just want to make the decision and move forward. You can always calibrate later. A lot of people spend time on the email template. Oh, it's got to look so perfect, and keep it simple. You want to have newsletters that feel authentic, that feel like they're coming from a person. And so if you jazz it up with an email template, you could actually be making it feel more commercial. Step number 4 is, before writing, you want to center your mind on what works. The subtitle here from the article is, "This is that something special." And the something special is you. It's your genuine personality. I think some other entrepreneurs and marketers have put this really well recently. It's something that can't be imitated. It's unique. It's special. Lean into the parts that might be a little weird. Obviously, you need to be a little pragmatic about it. You obviously need to evaluate it in a realistic way as well. You can't have a newsletter where you're selling B2B and then you just use the whole newsletter space because your personality is very into, football, and so you just start talking about football stats. It's not going to work. People don't want to read that. You want to balance, obviously, with reality, but be authentic. It's going to ultimately feel better. You're going to feel not drained from doing it and being engaged in the process. Or if you have a larger team or whatever, at that point, it's going to be better for them too. It's going to be more sustainable, and you're going to get better results because people are going to connect with the words better. Step number 5 is choose what the heck you're going to write about. And you want to think about this in a way where the formula is ideally going to be something repeatable. It's like a bottomless well, where wherever you kind of put your focus, it's like there's a circle topics, and there's just infinite ideas that you can constantly pull out of there, because whatever the market's changing, there's always news about it. There's just endless interesting content in there. We all have the creative muscle. You just have to work at it. You have to be willing sometimes to just turn off everything, sit down with a piece of paper, and just be alone and listen to your mind a bit, and you're going to see ideas start to come, and that creative muscle is going to get stronger. AI can be really useful here too. You can ask ChatGPT or similar models that are out there that are also free, and each of them work a little bit different. They all have their kind of different hallucinations and personalities, but they can give you ideas based on your target market, based on what your goals are, that you may not have otherwise thought of. So it's a little bit like a brainstorming partner, and that can be really useful. The one thing I really want to caution you against, though, is relying on AI to write your newsletters for you. AI is good for writing fast, but not necessarily good for writing well. Be careful with generating generic content that doesn't offer value. That's actually from Graham, one of the great copywriters on our team here at AutoGrow. The way that we found it to be most sustainable is we pair it with our content marketing. We use our newsletters as a channel to amplify our content marketing, which drives more traffic and also indirectly more leads and sales. But there is a very strong correlation. Step number 6 is create your first draft and edit it with these free tools. So we strongly recommend Hemingway app for this. Grammarly, also a good example, because we found that you want to make sure there's no typos. You want to make sure there's no grammar mistakes, because your conversion rate, your sales will be higher. Potential clients and customers, they're judging you based on these details, based on what they see as these are signals of the quality of service that they might receive or product that they might receive if they decide to invest their hard-earned money into your brand, into what you're offering. And again, Hemingway app, we've mentioned this a bunch of times in the past, powerful tool for writing just better quality writing in general. More persuasive, more engaging, and just a lot easier to read too, which lowers the friction, which means people are more likely to actually read it. Step number 7 is segmentation. Figure out who to send what to. The ideal here is the more segmented, the better. So just like I mentioned earlier, we have a question when people sign up at various points in our funnel on our website, we have a question that says, what best describes you and your business? The options are coach, e-commerce, SaaS, agency, professional services, and more. And people select that. And the reason why they select it is because we say, look, we're going to personalize your experience. We're going to send you personalized content relevant to your business. And as we ramp up here to 5 quality pieces of content per week internally, that's part of our strategy. We're probably not going to be sending an email blast to the entire email list every single day. We'll do that maybe once or twice a week. But on the other days, we're going to be sending segmented content that is relevant, like just to a SaaS business, or just to an e-commerce business, or just to an agency. And that way, again, we have found this from already doing this in the past when we did this a lot in 2021, where we would write, for instance, with the agency segment, we noticed immediately the open and click-through rates were double. And that's not too surprising. It makes sense. It's about relevance. People want tailored solutions to their problems. Step number 8, A/B testing subject lines and pre-send checks. Once it is sent, you can't undo it. You can only effectively test so many subject lines depending on how big your email list is. If you have a smaller email list, in the hundreds, you can A/B test too. And that's what I recommend. You'll have to wait over a longer period of time depending on how big the list is. With AutoGrow right now, we have tens of thousands of subscribers, and we're very honored to have earned that. We test about 5 different ideas every time we send a newsletter. But initially we come up with about 10 to 14 subject lines that we think are pretty solid, and then we test those as part of the newsletter. I'm spending most of my time looking at the titles and at the introductions, because those are the highest points of leverage as I see them, because in order for someone to actually read our content, they have to open the email. So according to research from Zapier.com, 47% of email recipients will open an email based on the subject line alone. 69% of email recipients will report spam based on the subject line alone. Open rates are increased by a massive 50% when these subject lines are personalized in some way. So urgent subject lines increase the open rate by an average of 22%. Step number 9 is track the success of your emails and pick out insights you can use to optimize later. So this one sounds obvious. It's like, okay, well, look at the data. Well, duh. But again, you're busy running your business, you're busy with the marketing, you've got your hands in a lot of different stuff. Your mind is probably juggling a bunch of different things at a time. So this is a step, though, that in the past I have often skipped, and it's really, really valuable because it gives you feedback. Okay, and you use that feedback, your brain naturally over time is just going to recognize patterns and make connections based on that feedback that the market is giving you in real time. For example, you're going to be able to see what topics are most resonating with your audience. And as Noah Kagan has said in the past, you want to scale the peak. If you're sending a weekly newsletter and you're getting a newsletter one week and you get 30%, 40% open rate, proportionally higher click-through rate, that might be a signal that you've struck a nerve. You're doing something, you're offering something, you're talking about something that people want to hear more about. And that is like a compass pointing you exactly where to go. Finally, step number 10, this is the most difficult but most important step of all. Rinse and repeat, baby. You gotta rinse and repeat. You gotta do it over and over again because it's practice. Every time that you do this and you do it consistently over days, months, and yes, years, you're going to learn. This pattern matching is going to happen, and the content is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Some of the best entrepreneurs and the best marketers in the world, they're not doing a million different things. They're doing 1 or 2 things really, really well. And they just ride that wave to success for their brand and their company. So take a page out of that book, because again, part of how they got there and part of how we got here, and don't get me wrong, I don't consider us a massive success. I consider us on the road to massive success. So final bonus step is we have an 11-point checklist to help you continuously grow your email newsletter audience. And if you want to check that out, go click the link in the description below. It's completely free. Something else I'll mention as a final parting note, I've been mentioning this in past videos, we are going to be coming out with a proven sales conversion pack. It's completely free. We used to sell this for hundreds of dollars back in 2018. It was an info product then, but we've baked it into our app with AutoGrow, and it has over 300 credible case studies. But basically, you can segment these case studies by the industry, by conversion rate, by how difficult it is to implement what each case study is actually teaching you. And again, we've used these case studies to grow our conversion rate and to grow our business to 7 figures and beyond. We're giving away for free in the hope that, when you sign up and you get value from it, that you'll consider either referring us business or even signing up for our core product, which is autogrow.co. And what AutoGrow is, it gives you an all-in-one marketing team at your fingertips for a fixed monthly fee. And you don't have to deal with any of the typical headaches of hiring. People ghosting you, interviews, payroll, managing, anything like this. You just delegate whatever you want to get done. And we have 16 skill sets included: copywriting, design, development, content writing, ads, strategy, and more. That's just scratching the surface. And again, it's an amazing value. I believe every business needs this solution. It's the future of hiring. I would even say hiring is obsolete. So check it out. You can get started for just $7 at autogrow.co if and when you're ready. So until next time, if you want to delegate to accelerate, grow with autogrow.co, and keep hustling and stay focused.